My name is Garletta J. Alderman Mitchell, and I am a proud student of Speech Class 1311-109. The purpose of this assignment was to educate both myself as a presenter and you, my viewing audience. By giving this presentation, it is my goal to entertain, inform, and perhaps even persuade my audience to think of our vast American history in a new light. At one point, North America was home to over 160 Native American tribes. Their history is vital to our nation's history, yet little is taught of them in schools throughout the United States. A student is more likely to learn about the pyramids of Egypt than the Native Americans' poignant history, rich culture, and dedication to family, tribe, and tradition. Although our topic is the Black Seminole Indians, it is necessary for us to go back to the past to understand this group's point of development and creation. This group's geographical region shares similar traits and falls under the classification of Southeastern Culture Area. This culture area includes the Alabamas, Coushatta, Chickasaws, Choctaws, and the Seminoles. The Black Seminole Indian derived from the Seminoles, of whom all were a part of the Creek Nation. Here we see a map of the Southeast Indians' constant placement and removal. In 1930, General Andrew Jackson led his troops to herd over 3,000 Indians along the Trail of Tears. This trek caused many of them to die of starvation, disease, and bandits who preyed on them. Survivors were not even allowed to stop and bury their dead. The Choctaw finished their journey in 1830. Both the Creeks and Chickasaws in 1832 and the Cherokee in 1835. The Seminoles reached what is now Florida in 1833. Historians have argued for years as to where the name Seminole is derived from. Some historians insist that it is a corrupted pronunciation of the Spanish word Cimarron. In 1415, Portugal became the first European nation to actively participate in the slave trade. Although the Netherlands and Spain became heavily involved, Europe resisted. They saw no need for an uneducated African slave because they had Native Americans as indentured servants. But the only problem was the Indians were on their homeland, which made it easy for them to escape, or members of their tribes to steal them back. So when the Indians didn't prove suitable, the numbers of available servants plummeted. African slaves became very necessary. Four out of every 10 died on the ships crossing the Atlantic from infectious white man's diseases, weather exposure, beatings, and suicide. So they faced three choices: work until death, fight until death, or run till captured or freed. Florida was the most southern tip of the U.S., where Africans were allowed to be free. Well, not exactly. The Spanish had a plan for defending their claim of Florida by organizing the Indians and runaway slaves. Under King Charles II of Spain, black fugitives were given liberty in exchange for their service in the militia. Upon their completion of service, many blacks stayed put in Fort Moss. Established for African American freedmen, Fort Moss and its militia became the northern defense post for St. Augustine. Fort Moss holds great significance in American history as the first legally sanctioned African American community in the United States. Some free blacks decided to stay with the Seminole Indians in exchange for sanctuary. Former General, now President Andrew Jackson, led 3 separate wars against the Indians and their new allies between 1817 and 1842. Many other blacks feared enslavement and escaped into Mexico. There they became known as Los Masajes. In 1870, the U.S. Army invited the Black Seminoles to return to the U.S. as Army Scouts, as they were famous for their tracking abilities and endurance. Units of these Black Seminoles were known as Buffalo Soldiers. There is a second military base of Black militia known as Fort Clark in Brackettville, Texas. As freedmen, the Black Seminole Indian went on to become a part of the way of life for everyone during that time. Preservation of family, land, basic necessities, and honor was all many had. For many more, it was worth dying for. Today, this rich culture fights to keep its history alive. Only through books and an occasional educational presentation like this one are its past revealed and made known. Here I have my resources listed, and thank you so much for your time. That ends my presentation.